I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite
podcast
on the Citadel.
You are listening to Accidentally Casual, the gaming podcast equivalent of being stuck in a car with a bunch of nerds on a long road trip. My name is Minius of Minius GC, and with me is Tucker from Talking About Games.
Hi.
And Scott from BioWare Babbling.
What's up, nerds?
I would love it, Tucker, if you had more, excitement when I introduced you.
No, he saves his excitement for, the rest of the podcast.
That's not good enough.
Oh, it's not? Ow.
No,
Feelings.
apparently not.
Wait, ow! Dude, you've never said you got your feelings hurt before. If you do that more often, I would treat you nicer.
What? Wait. If I got my feelings hurt more, you treat me nicer?
Yeah. You always seem like even when you say I insult you directly and you're like, don't worry about it. And this time you're like, oh, my feelings.
It doesn't bother. It doesn't bother me much. But speaking of which, man, comments on the last video.
Yeah, I did that. I'd try not to dive into those. Yeah, that was an interesting podcast last week. You picked a good day to be called into work against your will, Scott.
I mean,
Yeah, he missed a lot.
Was it though? Was it? I mean, to be fair, I still got a taste of it anyway because I posted the podcast on Reddit, and oh boy, that was fun.
I find it nice that we were talking about how potential censorship of Miranda's ass, and so I posted a thumbnail of Miranda's ass on our podcast, and it got censored by YouTube.
Yep.
But we didn't get
it was perfect. Yeah, I'm really glad. I mean, they said it violated the sex and nudity policy, and it's either someone listening to this is a snitch, which that's your obligation. I don't actually care. Or they had an AI program that determined that was too sexy, which I really hope was actually what happened.
Yeah, 100%.
There's an AI that checks for curvature of objects.
And they're
like,
nope,
that's an ass.
Nope, this
Okay.
ass is too sexy. We got to take it down.
To be fair, it may have also done it oh yeah, that might be a bare ass because it's just a white suit.
It's just a white suit that impossibly skin tight suit.
You also used a very recognizable picture that BioWare or EA or something could have stuff up of hey, take this down if this picture is up.
Would BioWare do that?
Well, that's why I said or EA
Have they
or
done
whoever.
anything
I assume that that's a positive for them, but I'm not 100% sure.
I was about to say, I don't think they've done anything.
They could just be wanting this controversy to be quiet. For the most part, I think it's overblown.
Well,
absolutely.
we're going to talk about real controversies on today's show.
Yes.
Not dumb ones.
Because we're a glutton for punishment, apparently.
And we're very controversial podcast.
Yeah.
So, Minius, I don't know if I told you this. Tucker, I told you this, though.
Did you?
I posted the podcast on Reddit, and I got temporarily banned from Reddit, from the Mass Effect Reddit, for 2 days. For too much self-promotion, for one, and two...
Yeah, the self-promotion thing.
Apparently, Miranda's ass is a forbidden topic.
Well, it's possible that got out of hand real quick.
Yeah, I can imagine that people probably flooded the subreddit for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they probably they had a field day with
the self-promotion thing, I get that.
Yeah, the
based
moderators...
on what they're trying to do.
Yeah, the moderators were super nice. They kind of laid it down a little bit for me, so that was at least helpful. So thank you guys for clearing that up for me.
However, a thing to note with subreddits, the Anthem subreddit has also been getting flooded.
It has been.
A bunch of different, either people from other gaming subreddits or something like that, trying to show support for Anthem.
Anthem?
Yeah, no. Oh, it's been crazy.
All right, explain to me what's going on there.
Okay, so there was a earnings call, essentially, that is being deemed to determine what is the fate of Anthem.
Okay, yeah, I think we mentioned that on the show last week.
And pretty much...
It'll probably be tomorrow when the podcast comes out.
I know I posted something about it, but essentially it's a hashtag started of I believe in Anthem. And a bunch of different, on Twitter it's really started picking up, and then on Reddit, what happened was different Reddit groups, I think, like, the Destiny Reddit group, the, what was it, Destiny, Diablo,
Team Fortress,
yeah,
Division. They've had old school RuneScape is on there. That one's been my favorite.
yeah, like, all sorts of different franchises all, like, chiming in, just pretty much saying, like, hey, we support Anthem, and we want to see this franchise grow, which has been... I never would have predicted that to happen. Just
the gameplay is really fun to a point. The end game needs a lot of tweaking.
Oh, there's a lot of things. Weapon balances needed a lot of work. The storyline needed a lot of work.
The loot system in that game was one of the worst I'd ever seen.
Oh, it almost like... I think the best way I heard described it was it took the worst parts of Destiny in... like, the worst part of Destiny loot and the worst part of Division loot, put it together, and that's what you got. And, yeah,
I mean,
much.
From what I understand of that game, they had to put that thing out on a deadline, so they just did it without testing and balancing.
Yeah.
I think I've only played about 10 minutes of Anthem, and that was its beta.
It's a general concept loop of being an advanced form of Mass Effect 3 and Mass Effect Andromeda combat. It's just... Boy, I really do not like bullet spongy enemies, and that was one of the worst offenders.
Yeah, that one was...
I mean,
it's pretty.
Specifically, I mean, they got the abilities that don't do anything, and when... I mean, they do stuff, but they don't actually do any damage, and when you pump up the difficulty, they really don't do anything, and it's just like, all right, it's just a shooter now.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's kind of meant to be with a group of people.
Still, with a group of people. I mean...
oh, okay. Does it scale when you have people? Oh.
Well, actually, no,
okay.
I'm not entirely sure, but it's not really a soloable thing. Like...
It is if you're patient.
Once you... Like, GM1, you can probably solo if you have a pure legendary build. Going up to GM3, unless you have the best legendary build and really know what you're doing, yeah... you probably can't do some
Are those
of the raids
like
by
chapters?
yourself.
Are those chapters?
No, difficulties.
Difficulty levels, yeah. Kind of like...
Normal, hard, difficult, yeah.
Yeah, and then essentially GM 1, 2, and 3 was meant to be, like, not only increasing difficulty, but also your chances of getting, like, epic and legendary loot.
Okay.
So that might come out tomorrow?
I'm guessing
today?
that it is because that's when the podcast
because we're
drops.
recording? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was never official anyway, right?
I think only that the call is happening this week.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't heard much about the call itself. I know about the swarm of people coming to support it.
Honestly, what would be better instead of like posting pictures online is if everyone on like the same day or something just launched the game and actually like flooded the servers and showed how many people actually load the game.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they're not posting something on Reddit. They're actually launching their game. They're populating the server. They're,
one thing
actually...
And get it to crash?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. I think one thing as well, because there's a podcast I listen to occasionally. It's called the Freelancer Podcast. And kind of listening to what they were saying, and a lot of it is pretty much like, there's not much the community can do at this point. Like, we can definitely show our support and stuff like that, and maybe BioWare might be able to use that. I was like, hey, look, in the last, like, week or so, look at X amount of Twitter, tweets about us, and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
but
traffic.
I think a lot of it is they kind of have a lot of the data that they need to either make sure that this game continues or it's not enough and they scrap it.
From what I understand, it's a potential they're thinking about tripling the amount of people working on it.
Which, I mean, to be fair, that's from my understanding, there's 30 people working on it, and so in that case, it would be 90 people working on it.
Yeah, it's not like 2,000 people are going to work on it now.
Yeah, no. And even still, BioWare as a third part, as a AAA developer, I mean, they're still nowhere near the size as, a lot of like the Ubisoft studios or anything like that.
I will say on the subject that let's say we want to pour resources into a BioWare franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Anthem's not my choice.
I think it's worth it.
I would much rather have them pour additional finance into the next Dragon Age or next Mass Effect.
Mm-hmm.
If it's one or the other.
Well, yeah, but how many? But
I don't know if it's one or the other, but I'm just saying, like, if they give me a chunk of money and they're like, okay, you can split your resources or you can put them all into the new Mass Effect game, and what do you think I'm doing?
Oh, yeah.
But what if Anthem does well with this rework and then it brings in a new profit for them that can get allocated to the new Mass Effect or Dragon Age?
Yeah.
Will it though?
I mean,
will it?
The one thing I will say
typically will get recycled through development.
One thing I will say that at least kind of supports the case that, hey, Anthem has a future. One thing that I constantly have heard in the reviews or when people ever talk about Anthem is, I see the potential. I see this could be a really good game, but they fucked up on the execution. So one, I hear that a lot. And then when I look at like the sales of the game itself, it's still, I think it came out was it 2018 or 2019 when it came out? 2018, thank you. Like when it came out in 2018, that year, it was in the top 10 best-selling games of that year.
It was 2019, I lied. January 2019.
Was it actually?
Yeah.
Wait, first, like, where, on what list? Because those lists are never official unless it's a specific country.
It was like PlayStation and stuff.
Oh, it was like PlayStation digital downloads? Because that's official.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
and I know that...
I kind of remember what he's talking about.
So, I mean... And granted, I also know it was on...
but to be fair, so is Division when it first launched, and so is Destiny, and all of those games had issues. It's just popular because while there's people talking about it or raising issue about it, there's more people that are silent about it that are just kind of passively watching a trailer or two, going, oh, I know them, they make good games, and... That looks fun, and they'll buy the game and not know about some of the issues.
I think one thing is the monetization system that they use. It's very similar to what they use in Apex Legends and Fortnite, which have shown to be highly profitable. So at least in how they set up their monetization
I remember
scheme
looking at that when it first came out and looking at the monetized stuff, and there was absolutely nothing to buy. And I went,
hey,
that's interesting.
Hey,
it's a bold strategy.
I said that how they set up their monetization system was effective. I didn't say what was in it.
I was like, I thought they were gonna like most games over flood that, and you're like, man, I don't want to spend any more money in this game. Like, oh, there's actually nothing there.
Yeah,
that's an interesting strategy.
Yeah, I remember there was definitely there really it wasn't too much other than the way of skins. I know they probably made a decent amount of money when on N7 day when they first they released Mass Effect armor, so it's like the Ranger got Turian armor, Interceptor got the Quarian, the Colossus got Krogan armor, and then the Storm got Asari armor. That probably made
Solarians.
Yeah, I'm sure that probably made a decent amount of money, but...
What would you do? Like, have you ever seen a Solarian in an armored suit?
I mean, aren't there suits?
I know. I would think that they would do that, but that's not very common.
Well, no, I'm thinking about it, I see... Because we see in, some of the... I think to, Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect... And, especially on, the Vermeer mission with Karahi when he's doing his speech and stuff. I remember seeing fully suited Solarians, but I don't ever remember seeing
In all fairness, there aren't that many super mecha characters in Mass Effect.
No,
I want a Volus skin for the Colossus.
I feel like it would just be a giant round...
An enormous round blob, and then that says weird shit.
I
Yeah.
am the
Imagine
true
that thing
bionic
pummeling
god.
towards you through the forest. That's the last thing you see. Your mortal eyes just gaze upon a giant Colossus Volus.
Jesus fucking Christ. Oh, that would be so
But
good.
speaking of games that are coming back from the dead, so 6 Days in Fallujah is happening. That's kind of wild.
Yeah,
So-
that...
I don't know if y'all know the significance.
Give people the background on that.
Well, do y'all know the significance?
I do,
of-
but I'm assuming people who listen don't.
Scott,
Yeah.
do you know it?
I do know the significance of...
Explain it as if nobody knows it, Tucker.
Okay, so cool. So 6 Days in Fallujah was a game that was going to come out in 2010, based around the Second Battle of Fallujah during the Iraq War in 2004. That was one of the worst battles that happened during the Iraq War. There were about 1,500 insurgents that were killed and about same number captured. There were on our side, there was about 100 people killed and about 600 injured, but there were also about 800 civilians that were killed. It got there's a thing before the invasion of Fallujah, because Fallujah was occupied by almost every insurgent group that was there, and 3 of them had their bases, or not bases, but they had some form of a headquarters in Fallujah. And so we dropped millions of flyers in Fallujah that said that we are coming in, that the U.S. and as well as British forces and Iraqi soldiers are going to come in, and anyone that is a male over the age of 12 will be shot or will be considered a hostile and shot on sight.
Jesus.
And about 90% of civilians fled, but there was some controversy about men not being allowed to leave Fallujah, that they were being stopped and arrested or forced to turn back or things like that. And this game, 6 Days in Fallujah, has you in right in the boots of a Marine as they sweep through Fallujah. And the way that you clear a place like that is you have to go through every single building. And this game has interviews with Marines that were there, insurgents that were captured and are still alive, and Iraqi civilians. And
This game,
all of them.
I mean, the real from the storyline, this game was canceled right before it came out. Like how many years ago?
Yeah, it was 2010.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because it was Konami that was going to publish it.
Yeah,
And
and mind you, that was about 6 years after the Battle of Fallujah actually happened.
yeah.
So, this was still relatively fresh on people's minds.
And there's major controversy just around what we did in Fallujah. Our use of white phosphorus is illegal. The British forces are not allowed to be in any theater of war that uses white phosphorus, and we also used white phosphorus against people, which isn't allowed. But I mean, the way that the way that the Marines or the people that they're giving the interviews with about what it's like to go through the buildings, that's kind of what the focus of the game is. And I think that is something really important to the gaming industry, is the message that this game is going to be kind of putting across is Call of Duty, Battlefield, all these other games that we have. They do depict war and they do show some of the horrors of it, but it is first and foremost entertainment. It is still glorified. It's still enjoyable. The developer said that they want you to leave this game just understanding the human cost of war. That they want people to leave the game just not wanting to join the military or not wanting to go to war, understanding the actual costs of what it's like for people there. And I think that this is a major step for the gaming industry, because it is an extremely realistic depiction that, that's a narrative that I'm pretty sure there are some people that they don't want that narrative out there, because it actually showcases just how brutal.
Is that where the controversy is? That's not where I thought the controversy was.
I mean, the controversy is in its realistic depiction of it. And Fox News, because they like to make noise. They brought a mother of one of the soldiers that was killed in Fallujah, and God, that interview was awful. That is what sunk the. As soon as that interview went out, the public wanted this game shut down.
Yeah.
Even though Fox News had a Marine, or I don't know exactly if he was a Marine, but he was in Fallujah with a squad, and they also had a developer on there. But the questions that they asked the Marine, and then they asked the mother, it's like, how do you feel that your dead son might be depicted in this game? Jesus. And then they look at the developer and they're like, do you feel like this is the right way to honor those that died? Like, they are very much pushing this is an issue, not actually letting them.
Most, and this is true of all news outlets, are interested in stirring up controversy for the sake of getting viewers in. So if you're looking for them to actually
depict it fairly,
depict things for any of them, I don't. You're going to fail.
It's also Fox News.
No, I don't think it. I mean, if you want to watch any news channel, it's almost all like that.
Well, I don't. I mean, other industries or other news outlets have had raised controversy with games, but I have not noticed any that have done it like Fox. Because that was also Mass Effects, and as well as previous other ones, Modern Warfare, all those games.
I know one thing as well is that Fox News, at least when it comes to video game industry stuff, so like the Mass Effect sections, or with
they push the video games cause violence.
Yeah, well, they're a lot of the times they're the ones that start this coverage of the story, and then others will, CNN and MSNBC and stuff like that will jump onto them, but they're generally reporting controversy comes out, first started on Fox News, blah, 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 blah.
I have a question. This really gets into how I feel about the subject. If this was a movie that came out, would it be anywhere near the controversy?
No.
Oh, fuck no.
So
there are movies of
I'm
this.
sorry.
Everyone be like, wow, they're on, so it's really just,
it's
either...
It's the interaction.
The game hasn't come out yet, and nobody's really played it, so I don't see how they could have a full opinion on it, because it could be that the interaction is not quite there. It's
described as a first-person tactical shooter, and there is
Cyberpunk
an emphasis...
2077 was described as something that it wasn't, so I'm not going to believe that.
Well, they're specifically saying that it's a tactical shooter, which would put it in the same lines as Siege or Ghost Recon Wildlands, a game where movement and your gear is a lot more dependent on your situation, and being very careful with how you're moving, rather than Call of Duty or Battlefield or Halo or those other games that are just normal first-person shooters where you do just kind of run and gun.
This is more along the lines of how much do you believe you're allowed to make a point in any kind of media?
It's
like I said, if this is a movie, it doesn't matter. You got to be able to push the envelope in certain cases, so either ban all of this stuff or don't ban any of it.
Well, look at you have the movie about what happened in Benghazi. A famous one is Black Hawk Down. in things like that, where it's like, yeah, no, the movie industry has covered things like this in the past. I don't know of any movies that, off the top of my head, or I guess like Jarhead would be a good example as well, of just like movies that cover a similar topic. So yeah, the movie industry has been able to do this for years.
Well, I mean, it's also the video game industry is the new boogeyman to
absolutely.
people who want something to blame for violence or stuff like that. It used to be movies, and it also used to be music. I mean, Eminem, Manson.
I mean, it'll always be whatever's new, right? I mean, that's going to come back.
There will
be some new music coming out that people are going to be blaming soon.
Because before that, it was books were causing it, or
was it,
things like that.
It's going to be something, right? The way I kind of look at it is it's a little bit of disrespect towards games as art. And and that's, I mean, you're allowed to disrespect whatever you want. Just appreciate the fact that if you're making something and some of this stuff is for profiteering, and I understand, you know, like let's say it's a movie that's coming out and they're just trying to profit off a controversy, which happens all the time, by the way. If this is a video game and they're trying to profit off that, you can criticize it. But if they have something to say in a form of art, that's exactly the basis behind freedom of speech. That's exactly what you want.
The fact that 6 Days in Fallujah is coming back and it was one of the most controversial games that never got released, it got me looking at a bunch of essentially just the history of controversial games. And I mean, like talking about how video games have been controversial, the Doom being mentioned with the Columbine shooting.
Yep. I remember that.
And, I mean, even Doom itself being mentioned in the basement tapes that were recorded by the shooters. Mm-hmm. And so, like, you know, that didn't help. And there was Mortal Kombat as well as Night Trap that helped the creation of the ESRB rating.
Mm-hmm. Essentially out of fear of, okay, let's regulate ourselves versus the government coming in and regulating us.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, also Night Trap is very tame, and the people who were talking about Night Trap, they were asked like, "Hey, you said that in this game you like attack women and it's sexually explicit and all this stuff. Did you ever play the game?" They were like, "No." Like, all right, cool. Like, you know, it's the same kind of thing that they've done. Is like, this is violent. It shows all this nudity and everything like that. Well, have you actually looked at the game? Have you played it? Nope, not at all. Cool.
Unsurprising.
Have you guys ever played? And this game came out about 8 years ago. Spec Ops: The Line.
Yes, I love it.
I haven't played it, but I know all about it.
So that was more of a serious war game take.
Yes,
and that was a very. I mean, they kind of had something to say, and it wasn't even overly political. It was just, you know, like, dude, war is rough, and that's kind of what I think of when I think of what this game might be.
Yeah,
and that was a.
Yes.
I mean, I wonder also if this game was just called like 6 Days in the Desert, if anyone would care.
I mean, it's called 6 Days in Fallujah because the battle was over the span of 6 days.
I'm aware of that, but you say 6 Days in the Desert, and it still takes place in Fallujah. It's not in the title.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if something like that, and especially it's like we were still in the middle of the Iraq War. It was still going on, and I think that also kind of brought just that idea of like, this is still something going on, and we're making a game about it. I think also just probably left a bad taste in people's mouths because, like, this is something that people, you know, that we're still kind of going through at the moment.
It depends on how recent something is, right? That's what you're saying?
That's essentially, yeah. I mean,
because there are World War II games that are coming out all over the place.
Yeah,
and
World War II's been, you know, a bit longer than the Iraq
my point.
War.
Yeah,
you know, or World War I. There's not even anyone alive that fought in World War I anymore. So.
Yeah, I think the last World War I veteran passed away 5 years ago or something like that.
I think a little longer than that, but yeah. So,
but there are controversial games that y'all know of, and like, the controversy behind Mortal Kombat, Wolfenstein, all of those games, Postal, GTA. But while I'm doing all this research, there's other games like JFK Reloaded, which was a game where you play as Lee Harvey Oswald. Wait, that's not the right part. No, is that Lee Harvey? Who's the one that shot JFK?
No, Lee Harvey Oswald. Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. Essentially, you play as him as you try to shoot JFK. There is Super Columbine Massacre RPG.
Yep.
Which is a RPG style Columbine game. Mm-hmm. These were games that were released.
Those don't even compare to something like this. I mean, those are just over the top.
These games came out, and it's just weird that people developed these games and were like, yes, this is a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't get that.
That, I wouldn't be surprised if it's almost a trolling effect of...
I mean, that was the quote-unquote explanation for hatred, but, like, I don't get that. I don't... Because developing a game takes a while. And, unfortunately, some of these games have some development put towards it, which means these people sat down and worked on it for a while.
Yeah.
And it just makes you think, like, what's wrong?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
You have to... At that point, there's a certain willing of commitment that you have to go through to to really commit to that. And just... What's the best way to put it? There's a certain level of assholery that you just have to go through with shit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably never going to play this game because we've been over, like, modern stuff or contemporary stuff in video games. It's not something I like to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Normally I watch a movie or something like that, but I also think you'd have to see exactly what they do with 6 Days of Fallujah before you get upset about it.
Yeah. I am really fascinated with that game. I am very much looking forward to it, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, the only reason why I would be interested in it is because it's a little bit of a weird story. There was a wrestling camp I went to, and it was the Doug Zembeck wrestling camp. And it was meant to honor Doug Zembeck, who he wrestled at the U.S. Naval Academy, but the big thing, what he was known for was I think he led a platoon into Fallujah, and he earned the nickname Lion of Fallujah. And so that would honestly be the only reason why I would be vaguely interested, is to see, do they actually depict him in it at all?
I mean...
I would think that you would shy away from depicting actual people, yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's not a guarantee at all. So
yeah.
I mean, if they're going for historical accuracy, they may use names as of not... I mean, man, that's an iffy... That's something you're sitting there and you're like, all right, guys, we got to make a choice here.
Yeah, well, honestly,
because
that situation...
There's pros and cons to both.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of it is also... some of it is also you definitely... That would be just more of a thing of, like, you would have to talk to the families and get their okay with this.
It's a good way to get sued, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, you probably do need some...
Well, you would get sued if you, like, depicted them or brought them, Yeah, if you depicted them without consulting the families, you would get sued to high in heaven. But if...
Question, when someone signs on to join the military, how much of themselves are they signing? Because same thing when someone joins, like, a football team or something, and their likeness is used in Madden. Mm-hmm. They typically they'll consult NFL and so on. They may talk to the player, but as far as I know, I think they just kind of do contracts with NFL?
They need the permission of the NFL Players Association, which is
but not the players themselves.
That's what the players is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And if they don't get it, they didn't always use, like, there were, for instance, they had college games, and college players aren't allowed to make money, but they were in a profit, and they had to cancel all of those games. So these players are getting compensated, so they'd have to compensate people if they're profiting
I didn't know if
off
the military was anything like that. If you're signed onto the military, if they only need permission from the government in that manner. I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised also, while they may get, well, in a court case, like, if it were to say, like, oh, because, if the military okays it, then you're okay. I would not be surprised, because you're dealing with such sensitive subjects, and maybe some of this is because of my anthropology degree of, like, dealing with sensitive subjects and going through that process of getting okayed for things. I would not be surprised if they would go that extra mile of, okay, we're getting an okay from the military, but we also want to consult with, if we want to, talk to some of the family members, and because, like I said, veterans.
I mean, I can imagine they could be doing that out of respect and such as well. And I'm just wondering, contract-wise, that's how that would work.
That's a legal nightmare. I don't want to touch.
6 Days in Fallujah the music is being done by Marty O'Donnell, the guy that did Halo.
Really?
Yes.
That's
and
not
there's
who
other
I would be my first choice.
Halo and Bungie developers that are working, or Halo and Destiny developers.
I just read that it was done by a bunch of Bungie developers, so that makes sense to me.
That's
the. At least I think that was Marty.
Does this have a release date, or is this just hey, it's coming back?
2021.
Okay.
So sometime in the near future, or
I'm very much looking forward to it. It might be one of my top games of the year already. Just simply because of the potential. If it follows the impact that I believe that it might have, which is be one of the first, just the depiction of war in this manner, it is different from the Call of Duty or any of the other games, that it might have an impact on the industry. And I feel like that
one thing to me, it almost sounds like you want the 6 Days in Fallujah to almost be like what Quiet on the Western Front was for World War I, where it was essentially seen as almost like one of the first anti-war, books to ever come out.
War games.
Yeah, and essentially, for All Quiet on the Western Front, it was a book, and it essentially depicted, like, here is how horrible World War I was. And I'm wondering if they're again trying to do the exact same thing, but just in video game form.
So you're interested in this from a fact of potential culture shift in video games?
Yeah, just again from someone that's in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, even if you're just interested in the industry, that's something to look at. This is exactly why they should be allowed to do the game, by the way.
Because it's like, Call of Duty, with the most recent Modern Warfare, I didn't play Cold War. I lost interest in that. I thought it was going to be like sneaky spy stuff, and then I actually saw gameplay, and it was just flashy shooting.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't look as fun as Modern Warfare, but they did go with a realistic depiction of things with Modern Warfare, but it was still, a fun shooter game.
Yeah.
While 6 Days in Fallujah, I feel like they're going to go for a realistic depiction of it. I'm guessing a minimal HUD, if any, at all. Mm-hmm. You may just have to remember how many rounds you have, or all that kind of stuff, or where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
I think there may be some sort of healing mechanic. I think they said that there is a healing over time, but it is more that is because of gameplay. But it'll have a realistic depiction, and especially if you can go through with group. So if you have you and a friend or something going with you, that it might be a really interesting experience as a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I'm just kind of thinking of when what was the Tom Hanks movie that's like the really big war one?
Talking about Saving Private Ryan, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. How they said that was one of the first realistic depictions of the Normandy landing.
Mm-hmm.
That bothered people who were watching the movie. They had to leave the movie and stuff like that. But it was a dark depiction of what it was like.
Well, I remember they showed that scene to people who were at D-Day. And specifically, because I think in Saving Private Ryan they were showing Omaha Beach, and they showed that to people who were there on Omaha Beach that day. And they said like, "Yep, that's the closest depiction I've ever seen," and yeah, it's pretty much spot on.
Yeah. And but while looking at these controversial stuff, I rabbit holed, and I've been going down like documentaries with World War II and all these other like just controversial stuff that happened that some of these games are based off of.
Mm-hmm.
And man, it's just we've done some things in history that's just not good.
Continuously, yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that is
I'm
the
looking
mild
through history,
understatement of the day.
as I'm looking through history, I'm like, man, humans are kind of shit.
Especially when you specifically look at wars. I mean, you mentioned like, hey, this stuff's illegal. I mean, dude, almost everything that happens in that.
There was one YouTuber that I think it's like Monty May or something like that. He makes really detailed breakdowns of like Pearl Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff, like almost a minute-by-minute breakdown of, like, this ship got hit at this exact point by this plane, and this, like, really cool breakdown of that.
Damn.
Another thing did this week, Little Nightmares 2 came out.
Haven't played it.
Dude.
Fun game.
Like, I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, like, how do we transition to something that we normally talk about? And you're just like, dude...
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
we're waiting.
I mean,
it's
the
Tucker
other.
We're having a very serious discussion, and I'm thinking, like, how do we transition this back to where we normally? And you're just like, another thing, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Tucker. He squirrels like no squirrel has ever squirreled.
I'm like, we got to be careful about this. We got to be careful. Like, oh no, we're just gonna go.
Yeah. So, Little Nightmares 2.
Oh my god.
Absolutely fantastic.
Oh my fucking god.
The first one was those are platform narrative games, kind of like Inside or Limbo or Unravel.
Yeah.
And the first one was a really good game. It was dark. It had a creepy narrative, but it was still a fun puzzle game. And the second one absolutely excelled on every step. It looks gorgeous. The creatures, like the kind of monsters that you interact with, are absolutely terrifying. Like the teacher her neck extends and she can move her head around like a serpent snake. Creepy as hell. But it was good. It's absolutely great game. I streamed it. I got back. I loaded up Stream and just streamed the campaign of it.
Loaded up Stream?
Yeah. Because I want to stream when the Mass Effect remaster comes out.
You mean you loaded up, like, Twitch?
Twitch. Yeah.
You said stream.
Yeah. Stream. Yeah, I streamed it.
But you said you loaded up Stream and streamed it.
Sure. Yeah. Because I want to do that when the Mass Effect remaster comes out.
Minius ain't nothing stopping him now. There ain't nothing stopping him.
It was kind of like, trying to get back into streaming and doing that. Although I need to make a channel that's actually close to the YouTube name that I have.
I mean, I don't think it's bad, at least.
All right, now that we're back onto normal video, Scott, have you been playing anything interesting recently?
The game I've been playing interesting, for Valentine's Day, I just got Breath of the Wild finally. Game I've been wanting to play forever. And for a while, I haven't been wanting to play a game where I can really sink my teeth into. Like, the best way to put it is that I've played, like, because I just got done with the Dragon Age series, and that took me like 500 hours. So that was like my long-term commitment, like, game. And then when I got done with that, I wanted to go on my video game hoe phase. But now I'm ready for another commitment again.
What games did you do through your hoe phase? Like, did you jump around through?
Not that many, honestly. I haven't really.
Oh, what a weak phase.
Oh, I know. It was a very weak hoe phase. I know experimented with a lot of multiplayer games for the most part. Pretty much what I would do is like whatever game that my friends were playing, I would download that and I would play it with them, and I wouldn't do that much. So like a little bit of Apex, Squadrons, Fall Guys as of recent.
Squadrons is. I think Squadrons is still a pretty good game. Have they added the new ships to it yet?
Yeah, they added the B-Wing, which is my baby. I love the fucking B-Wing. And the TIE Defender.
Yeah, I thought that thing was a joke at first. That is an actual Star Wars thing.
Dude, that's been in canon since Rebels?
I thought that was a joke.
No, the TIE the TIE Defender's legit. Yeah, they brought it back in Rebels, so it's fucking canon now.
So now they just need to bring it into The Mandalorian.
Oh god, please no. I'll be honest, like, as a giant Star Wars nerd, I don't think any of our hero ships can survive a TIE Defender. I'm just saying that right now.
Is it really that powerful?
It has the speed of an X-Wing, which is faster than pretty much anything the Rebels have. It has more weapons, more weapons, and it has shields. Yeah, it's pretty fucking horrifying. The best way to describe it is it has the speed of an A-Wing and the durability and guns of an X-Wing.
So here's a dumb follow-up question. If it is so overpowered, why didn't the Empire just make a lot of those?
Why? That's a great question.
Why doesn't this movie make sense?
So the reason why is because it was... So they actually do describe what happened. So Thrawn was the one that brought the TIE Defender into fruition. And because the problem is, yeah, it's in every way, shape, and form better than the TIE, the standard TIE model. But the problem was, TIEs are really fucking cheap. And you can field a lot of them.
Okay, so, it's like the cost efficiency and stuff.
And what happened was... So, spoiler alert for anyone who's watching Star Wars Rebels.
Spoilers!
And some of the... thank you, Minius. For the Thrawn trilogy as well. What pretty much happens was, it was Grand Admiral Thrawn's personal project, and during one of the Thrawn novels, I think it's the second one, what happens is that... they were going to take resources away from the TIE Defender project and put it into the Death Star. Thrawn said, fuck no, don't do that. They spend a whole book pretty much going through shenanigans for that. Then, during Star Wars Rebels, the TIE Defenders were being built on Lothal, which kind of is the main planet where everything takes place. But, to make a very long story short, Thrawn disappears off of Lothal, the factory that was building the TIE Defenders gets destroyed, and so the main person who's heading the project disappears, their factory is gone, the TIE Defender pretty much died right there before, right before the rebellion started.
So it was like some luck as well as it just being an expensive thing to make.
Yeah, pretty much.
And sounds about right. Sounds pretty on par for Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly.
But like Thrawn is also now coming to the Mandalorian.
Yeah, he has been mentioned, which I know
he's now canon. They de-canon him, and then they re-canoned him, right?
Oh,
I think.
Please, do I have to talk about the Star Wars canon?
No, you don't. we'll
Okay,
stop
thank
right
you.
now.
We can talk
Okay.
about the
I-
other
I- I've been-
Disney Plus show.
I've been very,
WandaVision.
Very quiet this whole podcast because you guys are talking about stuff I don't actually have any expertise about. And this is
Yeah.
one of them.
What
But
about
we'll just stop right
WandaVision?
there.
Yeah, thank you, because it's like,
Yeah,
oh
that's
boy, I know, I got my thoughts on Star Wars canon,
okay.
but oh dear God, that is
I like that character in the books, and I think it's cool they brought him back, and that's as much as I'll say about that.
Yeah, he's
With the
And
original
the
fun guy was asking about which games you wanted to play is because I actually did something I've never done before, and I've taken the current viral game and I played it. So I played
Oh?
Valheim.
Okay, I've been hearing
What is
I
that?
enjoyed the fuck out of that. I
Yeah,
couldn't
I've
believe
heard-
it. Like, that game is great.
So okay, what is it exactly?
So you're
'Cause
saying
I
you
keep on
tried
seeing
a new game and you happen to like it?
That happens all the time, Tucker. I just don't like the games you like.
Oh.
So, okay, someone describe the game for me.
Okay, so
because I
basically,
keep on
you know, like
seeing
it's in the same vein of a lot of survival games.
okay.
But the
like
game
Ark
in and
Survival,
of its
shit like that.
sort of. I the way I look at it, and I haven't played a whole bunch of these games because they never quite fit it. But I've been looking for something that's a kind of crafting survival. So basically, you're a dead warrior taken by Odin, and you're taken to the 10th realm, which is fictional. I mean, they're all fictional, I think. And you need to erase his enemies. But it's basically a resource gathering, building, survival game. And it's right in my eye. I cannot believe how sucked into that I got.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is it kind of like The Forest?
It's like a more adult version of Minecraft. That's the only
Okay.
way I can describe it. It has some similar aesthetics but different. It's along the same veins of Rust. It's in early access, but it's very complete
Okay.
for something in early. I could not believe how much. It's up to 10 players cooperative, or you can play it. I've been playing it solo, and I've been enjoying it solo.
Mm-hmm.
Are there... So it's just survive. Is there an end objective, or is it survive?
As far as
Just
I've
survive.
gotten to it, basically you survive, but you're trying to summon a boss, and you have
Like
to beat.
OG Minecraft survive?
I don't know. I haven't played enough of Minecraft to really get into that. But as far as I can tell,
That is
they're
what-
different. They're different bosses, and you need to harness resources, build, upgrade your gear so you can take on the next boss, and then the next boss will drop something that allows you to harvest new resources, and then build up your gear. But I could not believe how into it I was.
Yeah.
Because I would love a casual, like, if just survival, like just trying to survive for a little bit so I can throw on podcasts or more documentaries, because I'm
you
getting
might like this
sucked into
game.
documentaries.
You might like this game, but
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
what
I
I've
was
been.
like-
And I'm a sucker for medieval stuff. I've been
Yeah.
playing a lot of Age of Empires, Stronghold 2, Rise of Nations.
take a look
playing
at
a lot of
the videos of it. Basically, the deadliest thing I've incurred. I mean, I haven't actually been killed by this, but there's a lot of videos online about this. The deadliest thing in the game are trees. If you cut down a tree, they fall in weird ways, and they will kill you.
like bug fall.
No,
or
like
is it
they'll just start
gravity?
teetering, and then they could bounce off another tree and just land on you, which it's logging.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's like realistic in
Yeah.
that manner. Not, okay.
I know.
Although
um,
sometimes it bugs, like they wrap around a tree and flings, and that's not
Yeah.
normally how that
yeah.
works. But
That's kind of with me when playing Breath of the Wild. I think I have died so far 4 times. 5 times. All of them is because my stupid ass killed myself somehow.
yeah, I mean, so in Valheim, when you die, you keep you lose everything in your inventory, and you
Okay.
lose some stats,
Ooh.
and you're sent back to your spawn point, and then
I like it.
you can go fight your way back to the spot where you died and pick up your stuff. But if you can't get back to it, you're never going to get to it. So
Do you,
it's a more
I,
forgiving version of the survival genre, but it can be a little bit difficult. At some point, apparently, you need to cross the ocean. You need to build a ship and go to another continent, and there can be sea monsters that attack you, and you're just not getting back to your spawn point. So anyway, I enjoy the crap out of it, and I'm going to continue to play it for a
Does
while.
it have cross?
I've added It looks like it's only PC.
On PC at the moment, and
only Steam.
There were no plans to bring it to consoles, and then it sold 2 million copies in 2 weeks.
And so now there's plans to bring it to consoles.
No, they haven't confirmed that, but I'd be a little surprised.
There's plans to bring it to consoles now.
They're probably early. I mean, at this point, they're like, okay, this could be popular.
It's happening.
We didn't plan for this. Go.
But I've never jumped into a viral game, and it's the first one I've looked at. I'm like, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
So this is going to be in 2 to 3 weeks. This is going to be the game that is going to be dominating YouTube, and
I think it's doing that now.
Is it?
Maybe not YouTube, but it's definitely dominating streaming.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Okay,
I wouldn't be surprised.
I added it to my wish list. I'm going to get it, but I'm not a broke bitch.
Yeah, no, it's quite enjoyable. Anyway, so I do that. So right now we are working through a tournament, or I say we. It's only me that's doing it, right?
My baby Starflight.
Hey, I have been voting at least.
Yeah, that's good.
So have I.
I'm always like, I have these little projects and they're somewhat related to Mass Effect, and I always wonder, does anyone actually care? And then I realized that I don't care if people care. So we took 64 different games, we put them in a tournament, and we're trying to figure out what the most recommended tournament game is for Mass Effect fans. And yes, I said recommended. Fascinatingly enough, recently Baldur's Gate got bounced. Baldur's Gate 2.
Ooh.
Because it was in a group with Dragon Age Origins, and apparently all the Baldur's Gate fans are also Dragon Age Origin fans, and Dragon Age Origins absolutely wrecked that bracket.
That
absolutely
does not
wrecked
surprise
it.
me even in the slightest.
Yeah, so like Baldur's Gate got 4.5% of the vote, and Dragon Age Origins almost 80%, which
but in second place,
Detroit Become Human in that specific
Okay.
one. Also, there was the group before that. We had a Star Wars bracket.
Mm-hmm.
The top two of these four move on to the next round. It was God of War, and then Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, Knights of the Old Republic, and then Star Wars The Old Republic. And what I thought happened was going to happen. The Star Wars games canceled each other out, and two of them got knocked off.
Yeah. But they
so
tied.
God of War. So wait, God of War
and Knights of the Old Republic will move on, and then Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and the Old Republic move on. If you were to rank those four games, I think you'd put God of War last, but because the vote was split, those ones moved on.
Yeah, God of War makes it to the next round.
We'll see if that gets trampled or not. Dead Space also did very, very well.
Oh, did you ever watch the Dead Space movie?
I probably will not, although that sounds like something I might enjoy. So if you bring that up again in a later date, then I might watch
tomorrow sound.
Later date in a couple weeks or not for now. I'm doing two things. I'm playing 3 games at once, which I normally don't do.
Hey Alexa, remind me tomorrow tell Minius to watch the Dead Space movie.
Tomorrow's too soon, dude. Tomorrow I'm going to be... Actually, I need to work... I've had 3 failed video ideas in a row, and I'm starting to get mad about it. I also did something Scott did. Scott, yesterday I spent $150 on RPG books. Yeah.
Okay, I feel called out for that one.
No, but I was like I bet Scott would do this. I was looking at these books are too expensive, but they look pretty badass. So I'm gonna start. That's gonna take a while to get to.
Yeah, I'm not definitely now looking at my stack of D&D books I have.
Yeah, actually, one of them is the history of. The whole idea is to look at the history of RPGs that go all the back, and Dungeons and Dragons is the largest influence on that.
Oh yeah, easily, hands down.
But
or looking at my minis that I bought for my party or my die. Yeah, no. So, thanks, Minius, for calling me out. I really appreciate that.
I didn't mean to call you out. I'm saying I'm doing this too. That's not a calling you out. They're like copying. If you're copying someone,
I'm giving you shit.
Okay.
I'm giving you shit.
You're also giving yourself shit at the same time, though.
Oh, I know. I'm roasting.
You idiot. You're just like me.
Double dipping.
I'm bringing you onto the spigot with me. I'm roasting you, roasting myself, just back and forth. It's fine.
I'm sitting here drinking my water.
Well, thank God you're staying hydrated.
To get to the thing, basically, if you go to my Twitter feed at Minius GC, you will be able to follow this tournament. We're getting into the really good stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually we will crown what ends up being the most popular game, probably.
You mean Witcher 3?
Yeah, I find it weird. Like, people are like, oh, Witcher 3 is a terrible recommendation for Mass. Like,
yes.
no, it's not.
What?
It's awful.
What?
It's not as I'm like I don't
awful.
need to defend this game to anyone. I feel like you haven't played it then.
It's such an
Someone's
awful
like,
choice
this
for
is an awful RPG. I'm like, all right, dude.
Okay.
Like, I don't need to respond to that.
Yeah.
I know it's a good game, but it shouldn't be
Tucker,
on this list
Tucker,
because
you haven't
it dominates.
You haven't played it.
What? So?
That really does matter.
Well, no, I recognize that it's a good game. I said that it shouldn't be on the list because it dominates.
Will it, though?
Will win.
I'm not so sure anymore.
If you're picking the top two, you think Witcher 3 will be put third compared to two other things.
Well, I mean, first of all, it's in the side of a bracket, so it's probably going to get to the final. I mean, it's next round. It's going up against the next round. It's in is the quarterfinals: Cyberpunk 2077, Dead Space, Jade Empire, Witcher 3, Wild Hunt. Cyberpunk split off
is the obvious answer, though. It is the actual.
But I
answer.
think that
if you were to recommend a game,
if you were to look at this tournament, the favorite right now is Dragon Age Origins.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because that's another BioWare game.
But still,
if you're looking to recommend, if they were to say recommend me a non-BioWare game, Mass Effect like game, then you could say Witcher 3. That's a very safe recommendation.
It also has,
and that makes it boring.
Also has the most in common with a BioWare game that a non-BioWare franchise has done. Therefore, is a good recommendation.
Yeah.
No, it is. It is the best recommendation. That's what makes it so boring. It's going to win.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I'm curious to see. It's because these are specifically people who are following me on Twitter or who respond to retweets. The other game that'll be interesting to see them go ahead, and these are all designed to be in the finals, would be Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
Because that would be my number one recommendation based on the plot. Reminds me a lot of the original Mass Effect and the twists and turns and sci-fi-ness of it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
what is Witcher going up against next? Maybe I can convince enough people.
I
to
did
all
just
vote
go
for
over that
something
and you
else.
weren't listening, but I will do it again for you.
Aw,
Cyberpunk 2077, Dead Space, Jade Empire. That's in a group that's going to come up in a couple days for the quarterfinals.
We got it. We got to vote for Dead Space and
Who's we?
Jade. My dog's agreeing too.
The
My dog's
Jade
making noise about
Empire
it.
subreddit was just created, so I mean, might be able to recruit some of those people to.
Jade Empire's done pretty well. Maybe not as well as I expected, but that's a tough group for them to move on from. All right, is it time for the obscure Mass Effect character of the week?
I believe it is.
Yes.
So I'm currently on a Tuchanka. Kick.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had a character recommended by some guy, and that's the actual name he uses, some guy, who recommended Erdnok Darg, who is the captured Krogan scout on Tuchanka. And I went and I was like, I'm going to look for this guy's clip. And I got through 4 characters that I wanted to put on before I got there. And I'm not even done with Tuchanka. But here's Erdnok Darg.
I can do it.
You? I said a badass, not some scout whining like a Quarian with a tummy ache.
I can do it. I'm going to the female camp.
Damn right you are. Get back there and show them what you're worth. Go! Go!
Nicely done. Fortunately, subject is unlikely to be contagious.
So, yeah, he's like a little, he whines and then he comes back. And you don't actually learn his name until he sends you a message.
Yeah.
I'm assuming if you don't convince him to leave, he doesn't send you a message.
Well, no, I think my favorite thing with him is if you have Tally with you, and you make the comment of, oh, what, are you going to react like a Quarian does? Tally just goes, hey, that's rude.
That's the quote I used. Doesn't have Tally in it, though.
Yes!
Doesn't have
Fucking
Tally,
called
which
it.
I'm bummed, yeah. Well, that's the best quote that has him in there.
I mean, true, but
all right, so I'm gonna have one more Tuchanka character, and then I'll get back to a couple recommendations. I actually went through and picked up quotes from someone that I didn't have.
Okay.
So right now we're just kind of like chilling on Tuchanka.
I can't get off it. I love all the characters. I have to stop. I keep on watching. I'm like, oh, that guy's great because they all say funny things.
Oh yeah, Now that I look back, it's like, oh, the dialogue was great on Tuchanka.
Krogans, they'll just say what they think, and they're kind of dicks. They're like, oh yeah, we killed that guy.
Yeah, I mean, there's
All right, so yeah, if you have a recommendation, the best way to get it to me is accidentallycasual@gmail.com or send me a tweet. Those are the ones I find quicker. But we do have a Discord channel that Tucker
Yes,
gets excited about every couple days.
Yeah.
I'm so happy with it. There is almost 100 people. We're at 90.
Apparently gets very active on the release day of the podcast. So if you're listening to this on the Wednesday, you jump in there and there's a conversation going.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's because that's when more people start joining, but it absolutely Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the weekend, like it kind of gets a little quiet around Sunday and Monday, but you know, there's always some sort of conversation going on, especially as more people join. There's always something going on.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, we're going to get to our we have game pitches. Tucker was super into this idea, and then his game was too complicated, and so I let him spend 20 minutes talking about weird theory stuff. Which
and people like that.
Some people liked it. I will let you do that if you're that passionate about a subject, but I don't know.
The majority of the comments are absolutely... I mean, some of them are saying that, it was kind of hard to follow, which is fair when I was being stopped every 10 seconds.
I was definitely not stopped every 10 seconds. Every couple minutes I jumped in.
That's called exaggeration, my dear friend Minius.
Well, I didn't want it to be a 20-minute monologue.
I know, and you know what could have made it shorter?
Holy shit!
Not interrupting.
No, basically, I maybe for those 20 minutes. First of all, it was 22 minutes, and I maybe talked for 2 of those minutes. But you would say things that I'm like, I don't agree with that, but
oh yeah, no, sure.
I felt like I couldn't let it go.
Oh, Tucker's clapping back.
The thing about the universe being flat,
oh god,
it is.
No, it's
3D
the term.
flat.
It's the term of flat. By the way, saying
sure, and absolutely. But I was
one of the
trying
issues
to
you
explain
had
that.
is you were declaring theories as fact, which is what I took issue with. Which is exactly what you do when you're making a pitch.
Still considered a theory,
but you didn't.
I was just trying to explain.
But these were
my
unconfirmed. I mean, okay, scientific theory is different from the way we normally do theory. Scientific theories have evidence and are proven, and these don't have a lot of evidence behind them. So that's where I was getting into the issue. But this is also something we will do occasionally if you feel very, very passionate about something,
and
we will send it to the end of the podcast.
I know that this theory is debunked for the most part. I just think it's fun. I think the idea of our universe just being the thin layer surface of a 4D hypersphere, I think that's just such a cool concept, such a cool idea.
So anyway, back about to those game pitches you were talking about.
Yeah, the game pitches one. Eventually, we're going to do that. My game pitch involved the Josh Whedon franchise, and the stuff's finally coming out about him. So
I mean, you could still. Do
yeah, I'm trying to think of to do. I'm like, oh man. But first of all, I guess I'll get into this now since it's worth doing it. So Josh Whedon, probably my favorite writer. About 2-3 years ago, it came out that he was doing weird stuff on the set of Justice League.
Yeah.
He took over Justice League, and that was a rough assignment. I don't want to defend this guy, but he was basically accused of being racist on the set, specifically towards Ray Fisher. He might not be racist, but he's definitely a dick, apparently. More people have come out and worked on his older franchises. The one that really got me is Sarah Michelle Gellar, who plays Buffy, who's his premier character. Says, I love being associated with Buffy. I don't want to be associated with Josh Whedon. I went, oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Wow. Everyone, I always wondered why when Ray Fisher said, hey, this guy is a dick, he's being racist, why none of his actors, because he's had the same group of actors come out and support, or come out and be in a bunch of his stuff. None of them supported him in that. And I went, oh, that's really suspicious.
That's not good.
And then this recent stuff, the one that really got to me, and this is why I'm not entirely sure to react with that, is Michelle Trachtenberg, who played Buffy's sister and was 15 at the time. She said there was a rule on set that he was not allowed to be alone with her. Ooh. And that's all she said on it. So it leaves it to your imagination. You're like, wow, that's really creepy. That's not kind of creepy. That's really creepy.
Yeah, that's.
And it's like I'm thinking of this like when Ray Fisher initially spoke out, he's like, "This guy's a racist." I'm like, I don't believe you, which, I mean, I feel a little bit bad about. I don't think he, although looking back, I'm not sure he's racist. I think he's just a dick. And then specifically when Ray Fisher and he was the only African American or African, I guess he's British, that he assumed that was racism. But it looks like he's just a dick. He also might be racist.
Yeah, I was
don't
about
know.
to say, being a dick and being racist can become very hand in hand.
He also might be racist, but it's interesting that like now you're just thinking like, oh man, because I like his stuff so much. And by the way,
has he said anything about this? Because like,
No.
while we're hearing one side, it's like, okay, have we?
What is he going to say at this point?
I mean, I don't know, but I was just curious of what has he said of it, just so we can
as far
know
as I've seen, nothing. This basically broke in the last week. But
probably...
almost everybody is coming out and saying, "Listen, this guy was super." At least it wasn't nothing criminal has come out yet, but nobody has anything good to say. There may not be anything criminal. It's just I always wondered why he didn't get more work, Joss Whedon, because he's a terrific writer, and this explains it.
In the MCU, didn't he?
He is one of the major figures behind the MCU being successful.
Yep.
He's the director and writer of the first two Avengers movies, and is responsible for casting a lot of those people. I mean, he
wasn't.
They brought him on shortly after Iron Man, the first one, and they say
But now it's like Kevin Feige.
Well, Feige was the main guy the whole time, but they're like, okay, you come in here and you write this stuff, and he cast Chris Hemsworth was the reason he was cast, and Mark Ruffalo. And brought in Vision and Wanda. That's going on with the WandaVision series. He's the guy who brought them in.
Good.
And I mean, this is.
watching that right now?
Hold on, Tucker. I haven't seen any of that. We're gonna watch it when the season's out. Discuss when the season's out. Anyway, so I'm like, oh, this is the first one of the guys that like I really like this guy's stuff, and boy, he's not what I thought he was.
Yep.
I no longer feel comfortable recommending Firefly, which is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. And
really?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I should get over that because it's not.
Does it have that big of an impact?
It's his thing. I mean, he wrote basically all of it and all the characters.
But
and
is it?
It shouldn't. It probably shouldn't be, right?
Person. Because it's a group thing. Like there's also Nathan Fillion and
if you look at like
all of their efforts in
if you look at Buffy, like Buffy, you don't want to eliminate Buffy from people viewing it because it does a lot of stuff, and so he probably shouldn't get as much credit as I'm giving him, and maybe he doesn't.
Well, I mean, he could have major credit on it, but I still feel like you can separate a bit the artist from the art. I guess
I normally try to do that unless they're somewhat abusive. I mean, I guess this sounds a little bit more like abusive.
There is a line. But...
Artists are usually really, really weird because they see the world in a different way, and so they act differently, and that's how they come up with stuff that's that normally people couldn't come up with. But this is more along the lines of doing something like, oh man. Anyway,
but you do know that WandaVision is supposed to be 6 hours long. When the final episode's out.
I'll have to watch it then. That's not gonna stop me.
Well, I meant that's like a lot. Like you could start watching part of it now.
No, I'm gonna watch the whole thing in one sitting. I mean,
I wonder if I don't know if Disney Plus will do it. Kind of doubtful, but if there is like a watch all, like they'll take out the credits and the before thing and just kind of have like a
I don't really need that. You can skip forward pretty easy. Anyway, I thought I'd bring that up. Although, eventually we'll get to our thing, but
I feel like some of it is going to be missed because part of what feels like with WandaVision, it may be different
Tucker,
with some of the other ones.
Enough talking about WandaVision. I haven't seen it yet. You're going to spoil it for me.
It's like missing that week gap. It feels like that's kind of part of.
I hate the week gap. I refuse to do it anymore. So. If that's part of the way enjoying it, I don't enjoy that part. So,
well, a fun fact is that
we are ending the podcast.
Well,
this has been episode 27 of Accidentally Casual. We are on every week. I'm jumping into this one quickly and don't have my script up.
Go quickly. Improvise. Improvise.
But basically, so if you want to catch us, we'll be back next week. I'm on Twitter at Minius GC. Tucker's at Twitter at Abby Tucker. Scott is at BioWare B. You can check us out on the Discord channel. And have a good week yourself.
Bye.
Okay, I'm muting you on most of that, Tucker, so I can take it out. What do you mean? Oh! I want to talk about dumb random stuff.
It's relevant.
Is it? Is it?
I like to think so.